Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets and Titles. My name is Justin Stevens. I'm back with you again for another off-season breakdown bonus episode. Tonight's episode is the Pittsburgh Steelers, my second least favorite team in the league. But you know what? I just told these guys I wanted to stay positive and stay upbeat about it. But you know what? I still got the Steelers banner up behind me. I'm still supporting them for tonight for this episode. So I can't say too much crap. But before I get to my guests, I got some awesome guest lineup. One of those faces down there look kind of familiar to you, but he's been on the show a few times. But can't wait to introduce the other one. But real quick, don't forget our main shows happen on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, Spotify, and When a Family Breaks, which is our Facebook page where we buy and sell memorabilia. So we just finished up an Aussies episode. Our Down Under Dynasty guys from across the pond just finished up that episode, so go check that out. And our redraft ranks episode was this morning. We dropped our redraft ranks for 7 of the guys on our team, along with Joshua from Fusion FFB on his website, fusionffb.com. Go check it out. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down there beside the banner. That 5-star review on Apple Podcasts can help get you a free entry into the Frankenstank. Don't forget to screenshot that and DM it to us. That's the Frankenstank Listeners League. And, of course, our Patreon, patreon.com/toiletsandtitles. All right to it here. We've got down below us the recurring guest, Shane P. Hallam, at Shane P. Hallam. This is he's from fantasy football, or he is a fantasy football, NFL draft, college football analyst for at Fake Pigskin, co-host of at Devy Marketplace, and obviously 247 Sports, the Steel City Insiders. So first thing I got for you, Shane, is there anything that you're currently working on that you want to prop up?
Not too much. I have a big announcement coming up about my future and a new endeavor that I'll be taking on. So in a little more than 2 weeks. So that's
on the Devy Marketplace podcast.
Yeah, Twitter and on there you'll hear about it. So I'm kind of been prepping for that and excited for a new step.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I know you wouldn't take that step if you weren't excited about it. So that's awesome, man. Right on. Will Harris is right here to my right, maybe your left. I don't know. Will Harris at It's Harris Time. He is the creator of at CNBBCL and co-host of at Jet Sweep Show, co-owner of at, you're going to have to pronounce that for me.
Viridian Global.
Viridian. Oh, okay. I see it.
Viridian, yeah.
Yeah, when they blend all the letters together, I get all jumbled up. That at Jet Sweep Show, isn't that a New York Jets show?
No, it is not. It is a rapid fire. Was on Sunday Night Football at halftime, and we're moving it to Monday night to get you jump started for the week, and going to be focused in on waivers and the news that matters to you for your fantasy teams that happen that weekend.
Gotcha. Right on. Okay, cool. Anything else you're working on that you want to get out there right now?
Yeah, we're, at Viridian, it is fantasy football merch. We just wrapping up Scott Fishbowl's shirts. We did over 35 designs for that, T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and we just launched our training camp collection. So that's 10 new designs of some of the hottest rookies coming on to the NFL season. So you can check that out. Yeah, Shane's got Shane's got one of our snapback hats there. Thanks for your support, man. And yeah, we're gonna be making a big announcement on the charity aspect that we raised quite a bit of money for Scott Fishbowl. We're gonna be making an announcement here soon of what we're doing with that, and it's gonna be something really special.
Dude, that's awesome. That's amazing. If I remember right, you guys also do those water bottle stickers and stuff.
Yeah, we do some stickers, especially for some different fantasy football brands. We've got over 45 fantasy football, fantasy sports brands on there, and some of them have some of our kick-ass stickers as well.
If you haven't gotten an order from Toilets to Titles just yet, I think you're probably about to, because we had just discussed this literally like 2 or 3 days ago. I had no idea that you were with them. That's insane. That's awesome. All right, cool. So I mean, just to jump right into it, this is the Steelers show, so this is what people want to see. They want to hear you guys talk about your Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, again, everybody knows I'm not a Steelers fan, so I cannot bring the information like you guys can on our normal, typical show. So we're going to start off, and also it's great to come from a fan's opinion, a fan's viewpoint. So I have my viewpoints about Big Ben, Big Roethlisberger, and how he can do this season. But I need to know if you guys think that he has enough left in the tank, and then also kind of maybe if you want to touch up on that whole Dwayne Haskins signing, if we really think he's going to be the future for Pittsburgh, or because I mean we know it's not Rudolph, and I mean there's a chance they're drafting for him maybe, but I think this is a pretty good talented team. Don't know if they're going to get a really good draft pick if they roll with Big Ben. So I don't know. Those are kind of the questions that kick around in my mind when I think of Big Ben. But how about you, Will?
Yeah, I think that his demise, it's certainly underway. I think that any Steelers fan would admit that, but I think what happened last season is a little bit overblown, just how far off Big Ben is. I mean, he did have major elbow surgery. It's not the Big Ben of old. He's certainly lost a step. But is Big Ben as far gone as everybody thinks he is? I don't think that it's quite at that level. I think that we're somewhere really in the middle. And I look at the weapons that we're surrounding him, that Pittsburgh has surrounded him with. And, we have receivers that if you get the ball in their hands, we've got tight ends as well, that if you get the ball in their hands, they are certainly dangerous playmakers. If Juju gets back to kind of his form of a couple years ago, we've got a really different look there in our wide receivers. Ebron, when he catches the ball, is actually pretty good when he holds on to that ball, and same with Deontay Johnson. And I also, we've also given Big Ben maybe one of his best weapons in the draft this year in Najee Harris. I think that, Big Ben's inability to get the ball down the field might be a big boon to Najee. Actually, I know that it's going to be. And I look back to another pass catching back that we had that absolutely tore it up for fantasy football in the 2016-2017 season in Lev Bell. And there's a lot of similarities between him and Najee, and I'm really looking forward to that. So is it Big Ben of old? No. Is he going to be as bad as he was last year? I don't think so. The big thing for Ben, for me, is he going to continue to be able to stay healthy? He's getting the ball out quickly. It's one of the quickest releases, because that release is going to be even more important this season with our diminished O-line. But he's got the weapons, right? He's got Najee now. He's got Juju. He's got Deontay. Hopefully Claypool can get a few balls to him, and then he's got two pass catching tight ends to enable him to get that ball out quick. So not Big Ben of old. I don't think he's going to be as bad as what he was last year. Shane, what do you think, man? What's your feelings on Ben?
I think we're in a similar spot. I mean, I think that people want to kind of bring him down, right? When they see the end to last season, that's what's remembered most, not, what was happening earlier in the year. And so I think Big Ben, a year removed from that elbow surgery, I think there was still a lot of ill effects of that last season. And so I'm kind of with you in terms of him stepping up to the plate, being a little bit better, being a little bit more efficient, maybe being a little more accurate down the field. I mean, when we talk about fantasy, like, we're drafting the top three receivers very, very high. So either they're all going to do what they're supposed to do. That means Ben is going to be very good, or not. And I think that's kind of the disconnect people have. They think he's old. I think that's it. I mean, he's still going to be in control of this offense. And I think it was much better. We saw an offensive coordinator change. Matt Canada, who was a special assistant to the offense last year, I think early in the season, some of his influence was being seen on the offense when it was really good. Motion, some under center stuff. I think there'll be a balance with what Ben likes and what Matt Canada likes, but I think that's going to improve the offense. And I think it's going to be a solid offense. It's going to be world beating. It's a tough schedule. I don't think it's going to, the Steelers are going to suddenly become the Chiefs here and, have 25 first downs a game or whatever. But I do think that it's going to be a little bit different and tough to defend. in terms of your question of the future, I think it's going to be really interesting. I think Dwayne Haskins is in a battle for a roster spot right now with Joshua Dobbs as the number 3 quarterback. And you wrote off Mason Rudolph, and I don't think you should do that. I think we know he's probably not going to be a great quarterback in the NFL, right? But I'll be very surprised if he is not the starter next year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they signed him to an extension. The Steelers really like him. I think more of what he's done in practice has impacted the team a lot more than maybe the football community at large. And is he the future? Probably not. It's probably someone in college, maybe even in high school somewhere. That's the future franchise quarterback for the Steelers. But Mason Rudolph is going to get his chance to show that.
Yeah, and it's Shane, a lot of really good points there. And just to circle back on Ben for a minute, I mean, this is an organization that has trusted in Ben, from almost the very beginning. So this coaching staff has been with him, particularly Tomlin, from the very beginning. So there would have to be some pretty serious conversations going on in Pittsburgh to say, hey, Ben, like, what's happening here? Do you still have this? Do you still have the drive to play? And because they could have made moves, right? They could have made moves to cut Ben, let him walk, and seek out. There's a lot of talent in this year's draft class. If they were going to make a move in the draft, it would have been this year. So internally, and again, this is anecdotal, there has to be some belief in Ben from the organization. And if Tomlin believes in Ben, that's enough for me as a fan.
Fair enough. Great points. And I would not have considered Mason Rudolph even a possibility. So that's what I mean. Like, you guys being fans, the organization a little bit better. Like you were talking, Shane, about him performing well in practice and that sort of thing. Like, we don't see that sort of stuff in Indianapolis. So
I'm still holding out. I'm still holding out hope for Josh Dobbs QB1. Still holding out.
That was a vocal laugh. Okay. All right. So I think that might be enough quarterback talk. I kind of want to touch up on this defense a little bit. Last season, the Steelers had an amazing defense to start the season, and they suffered a bunch of injuries about the halfway point of the season. They dropped a lot and still finished among the top 5 or 10 in almost every category across the board when it comes to defensive stats. So this defense was actually really good last season. You get all those healthy guys back. Is there anything else on top of what we saw last season that we should be excited about seeing?
I'll start here. I don't think there's anything on top of what we saw last year that's going to make this defense more exciting. I mean, Devin Bush coming back is a bit exciting. I think the defense and even the offensive line, to a big extent, suffer from the same potential problem. This is a top 5 defense on paper. You look at the personnel. I think even the offensive line's pretty good on paper, better than people think. But the depth is weak. The depth on defense is very weak, and that's the issue. If injuries hit the corners, it's going to be bad. If they lose Devin Bush again, if they lose Joe Hayden, or they lose Minkah Fitzpatrick for an extended period of time, there's not much in the cupboard to replace those players. There's late round rookies, there's journeyman undrafted free agents. There's a lot of guys that have to overperform. So I think the big issue and my fear with the Steelers is difficult schedule. If injuries hit, and they always do for every team, then I think the defense could be in a lot more trouble. And that's definitely my fear there.
Anything to add, Will, about the defense?
Yeah, I think that, we've got a top 5 unit. Devin Bush coming back healthy is going to be really important here. When he went down, we also saw Bud Dupree finally come on after drafting him, 4 years ago. When he went down as well, this defense showed that it did not have a lot of depth. And I think it was the injuries started to hit around week 12. And then you just saw this incredible in the bad way end to the season. And a lot of people talked about the ineptness on offense, but a lot of it was to do with the injuries that we had to personnel on defense. So How much more can we kind of squeeze out of this defense? I mean, I think that TJ Watt and Fitzpatrick give it their all every single game. I think that we're seeing them at potentially the highest level that they have. So Devin Bush coming back healthy is really what I'm excited for and looking forward to. But again, it's about this unit staying healthy, and if they continue to stay healthy and the offense has renewed faith in Ben, I think that we're going to be a competitive team.
Well, according to PFF.com's rankings, and I mean, obviously, when it comes to offensive line rankings, you take it for what it's worth. There's a lot of opinion on that, but the offensive line was ranked 17th by the end of the season last season. You guys picked up Kendrick Green, the guard out of Illinois, and Dan Moore in the 4th round to help kind of bolster up that offensive line. 17th isn't bad, but you kind of like to see an improvement there, right?
Yeah, ideally, you would want an improvement, especially in terms of run blocking. And, I think a lot of people in the public saw David DeCastro get cut and say, oh, my gosh, what's happening? But David DeCastro wasn't himself last year. He talked about it, that he really has been slowly going downhill because of injuries, and he knows that. I think what the Steelers kind of prioritized was getting ass kickers, getting guys that are going to smack you around on the offensive line. I think this whole draft from Najee Harris on down, I think Kendrick Green was a really big part of that, is guys that are going to knock you out. They may not be perfect. They may not have the best technique. They may not have the best athletic ability, but kind of getting back a little bit back to that old Steelers style of football. So I think Kendrick Green is going to start at center. I think he should. And I think the signing of Trey Turner was good. I'm interested to see how Zach Banner does, at offensive tackle. And I really thought that Chuks Okafor and Kevin Dotson both performed really well last year when given. So I think the offensive line is probably going to be worse in terms of pass blocking. And there were times last season, especially late, when it wasn't great as it was, and Ben was getting the ball out super quick. But I do think that it's going to be a much better run blocking unit, and I think that really helps maybe a more balanced offense, which is what was desperately needed last year.
And that's a great point, Shane. I mean, again, organizationally, this coaching staff knows what they're doing. Canada coming in gives it a new look on offense, and there's a reason they drafted Najee and the O-line talent that they did, right? To change things up, because, dude, you knew exactly what the Steelers were going to do last year. There was really no run game except for 5-minute spans of James Conner being healthy and not being healthy. But this offense was really predictable. Najee and the O-line talent that they drafted, I think gives them a new look and a different dimension to keep that AFC North division rivals guessing in terms of the offense.
Outstanding. Sorry, I was trying to look at our Two Legit league. Shane, you and I are in a Two Legit league together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was trying to look because I know I picked up Najee Harris in one of my leagues, and I thought that was it, but it wasn't. So I'm not going to gloat too much. But we'll touch up on Najee Harris a little bit. I know that you are the draft analyst king. So if anybody out there is watching this and you haven't seen Shane before, you got to follow him for his draft analysis. He's absolutely amazing. But I need to know a little bit more about this monster coming out of Alabama. So what should the Steelers fans know that already know about him?
I think a big piece with Najee Harris and why the Steelers drafted him is his versatility. I think when you look at a typical Alabama running back and you see Eddie Lacy and you see Derrick Henry, you see these guys that get used a ton and run between the tackles and knock guys out. And Najee Harris can do that, but he can catch the ball. I mean, he played receiver at times last season. And so I think that versatility is what really drew them to him. So I think he's a great fit. And that's what I'm excited about, because I think he's a good fit for this offense. I wasn't like super high on Najee Harris pre-draft. I definitely have just some concerns of his age and how much he dominated, these 19, 20-year-olds last year. Like, is he as good as he looked last season for Alabama? Probably not. but he's probably what he was 2 years ago. And I think that's the starting NFL running back. And I think the Steelers, you couldn't ask for a better spot for a guy with that skill set. So I think he could have a similar career that like Le'Veon Bell had, to really come out the gate, be pretty good, year 2, really explode on the scene. I'm not sure if it's going to be a long career, but I don't think that's in the cards. I think it's, to try to ride this out and win a Super Bowl. That's the goal this season.
Yeah. Yeah. And Shane, I mean, leading up to the draft with all the Najee kind of chatter that was going on, I was thinking for the long term as a Steelers fan, and just thinking about, hey, we could use some more depth on the O-line. We could use some more help, especially in the secondary. But when they drafted Najee, I was an instant fan. I couldn't hide my excitement, for Najee and just the character that he brings to the organization and how he fits in. Right. And I think for fantasy football, I know that we're talking from the Steeler fan perspective, but for fantasy football, I'm extremely excited about this guy and what he could potentially do for fantasy squads. And of course, for the Steelers in year 1 and year 2, and hopefully his start to his Pittsburgh career is as good as Lev Bell's, but let's just hope that the exit and the end is just slightly better, because that went a little south. It went a little south on Lev Bell and the Steelers.
Man, isn't that the greatest though? Whenever your team pleasantly surprises you, like whether it's during the draft or just a crazy pickup out of nowhere, you get that gut feeling inside you, and it erupts. You get excited. That's amazing. So that's how I felt about Phillip Rivers retiring. But anyway, let's talk about some more exciting stuff. Let's talk about those wide receivers. Outstanding wide receiving core, probably one of the best in the league, in my opinion. One of you mentioned earlier that you kind of hope that which one's going to get playing time?
All of them. Clay, for me, it's seeing what Claypool can do down the field, getting him involved. He was used a lot on jet sweeps, near the goal line. He's got that athleticism, dynamic kind of playmaking ability. Just got to get the ball in his hands. And you look at
take Eric Ebron out, put him in at tight end.
Well, that was everybody's big call that he should have declared as a tight end on draft day. But I mean, you look at the talent there, you look at the volume that Deontay soaks up. And Shane, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel that Deontay is kind of the darling of Big Ben. We've seen Big Ben kind of have his target favorites. AB certainly was that guy. And Deontay seems to have slid into that role and is that prime target. You've got Juju working the slot. Again, I really hope to see him kind of get back to where he was. So and now we've got Najee that's going to slide in. At Bauman his last season, he didn't have a crazy target volume. He was able to do a lot with that. But could we see him get a 20% target share like Lev Bell did when he was in his prime, 2016, 2017? So that to me leaves, how is Claypool going to get targets? Is he going to be targeted downfield a couple times a game and expected to break off a big play? I don't think in year 2 that he's going to see a ton of volume.
And I think one of the most interesting pieces of Matt Canada coming in as offensive coordinator is how these receivers will get used, because I don't think I think that'll probably be the biggest difference. Is it's not going to be Juju's the slot guy and, Claypool's the X and Deontay's the Y, and that's how it is. Matt Canada has talked pretty extensively about, moving pieces around so that defenses don't get comfortable. And he likes to have his receivers play 2 or 3 different positions on the field, throughout the course of a game and throughout the course of a season, so that they can be versatile pieces and create those mismatches. And that's something that I thought the Steelers kind of lacked last year. I thought it, I thought it was kind of why maybe Ben prefer Deontay more, though. I definitely do agree with Will that I think, he feels most comfortable with him, and that's the guy. But on the other side, I think getting Juju back on the team when I think the whole world expected him to leave and get a big deal elsewhere, Ben was probably part of that rallying cry. So does he feel maybe a little bit of pressure, right, to show, hey, that, Juju needs a long-term deal here. He's going to be good here. So I think there's a lot of pieces that are going to play into it. But, I think all three of them, I don't think we see too much outside of, those three and Najee. I think those are going to be the four targets. I don't think the tight ends are going to do much for the Steelers this year. I think we see less, maybe even less of those two tight end sets than they didn't have many last year, even drafting Pat Freiermuth. So I'm intrigued. I think all three are going to do decently and have different weeks and different big weeks depending on matchups. And that's the fantasy nightmare ultimately, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but it's a great problem to have from an actual fan standpoint. That's for sure.
And you know what? The odd man out here is James Washington, who, in limited duty and touches has still been productive for us. So the one position that we do have depth with, and over the last 20 years, we've been doing pretty well in the wide receiver department. So it's good to see that we've got depth at least one position.
Yeah, they definitely know how to draft them and raise them, if you will. Final question, guys. Final question, and I believe I started with Will at the start of the show, so I'm going to kick this one to Shane first on this one. You have a level of expectation as a Steelers fan for what you expect from your team this year, right? So we hope that we're going to be happy at the end of the year. Sometimes we're not so happy. So I want to know what that level of expectation is for you. I'm trying to gauge my guests to see how many of them are more realist and how many of them are it's Super Bowl or bust. So.
Man, I think it's a really difficult question for the Steelers, to me, because I think playoffs are my expectation. Like I said, it's a very tough schedule, the hardest in the NFL, and I think they are a playoff team. They should be. It'd be great to win a Super Bowl. I think that's the goal. I think the team's pushing for that. But I just don't see that in the cards with the competition there. I think if they make the playoffs, have a good showing, that's good. There's the draft part of me that's like, I hope it burns. I hope they win 2 games. Like, I hope it's a disaster because that's the only way you're going to burn it down and rebuild. But, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. I don't think it's going to start now either. So, I could definitely see them, winning 9 games this year. And I think that'd be pretty good.
Will? Sorry.
Yeah, for me, I think that I'm going to be pretty realistic. My goal is for the playoffs, but I'd love to see them win the division. I mean, I think that would be, for me, that would be the ultimate, making the playoffs. And if they can win the division, and they can, I believe that they can win out. Certainly they can beat the Bengals at the very least. They're going to have tough games. It doesn't matter where these teams sit in the standings. The AFC North is just an incredibly tough division. So that, for me personally, as a Steelers fan, if we can take that division and then make some noise in the playoffs, I think it's really aspirational. If Tomlin and Ben think that they can make it to the Super Bowl, if things break right, man, it's just so tough. I mean, I think they've got that top level talent, but the depth with a couple injuries, as we saw after Week 12 last year, I just don't think that we're there. So let's go. Let's give it to the Brownies. Let's give it to the Ravens. Let's give it to the Bengals and take home the division. That's my goal for 2021-2022 season.
If you only win 6 games and win the division, it's got to be them, right?
hey, we're in the playoffs if we only win 6, right? So I'll take that. Justin, I got to ask you, man, because I don't have the backstory, but why are the Steelers your second most hated team in the NFL?
Well, because whenever I was growing up, being a Colts fan, watching those playoff games where the Colts were playing against the Steelers, and they didn't have instant replay back then, but I feel like the Colts were robbed of a couple of playoff games, but that's just a personal thing. Plus, I've never been a big like a huge Big Ben fan personally, like on a personal level. So it's just kind of like he kind of lost me early on in his career with that stuff that happened off the field. So that's just a personal thing. It's certain players. Like obviously, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I love Claypool. I have a strong feeling that I'm going to really enjoy watching Najee play. So like obviously being a fantasy football player, you also watch individual players. So Mike Tomlin, I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin. I know he's done some shady stuff here and there, like the whole sideline thing and all that. But I still absolutely love the guy as a coach. He's a winner. So I just not a fan of the team.
So hey, man, I like the Colts.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, the Colts
no worries.
You will. But I tell you what, though, we try to shoot for about 30 to 35 minutes. And if you guys look at that clock at your top left, this is what happens when you get a couple of pros in here to talk football. They get in, they get out, and they get the job done. So you guys were absolutely amazing. I'm gonna sign you guys out here. Shane, guys, this is all on video, not the audio, so they can all see your information down there at the bottom. So I want to take a second to say thank you, Shane, for taking some time out, and cannot wait. I'm sure we're going to have you on again soon for some more rookie analysis. Obviously, we have you on every offseason for your draft analysis. I like to call you the brain. So I know another guy had the nickname. It's kind of probably not a good thing for me to say, but behind the scenes, I call you the brain to John and the guys. So, but I appreciate you taking the time. And then Will Harris, obviously, like I said, you're going to be getting an order from us here pretty soon. And it's so cool to have you on, not even realizing that's just my the way that I read things when the words are all jumbled together. Like I had no idea. So I'm pretty excited about that now. But Will, I really appreciate your time as well. You guys are obviously huge Steelers fans, and good luck to you and your team.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having us on. I think that us Steeler fans will need a little bit of luck this year. Shane, man, longtime follower, and appreciate everything that you do out there in the community, man. It was a real pleasure to talk some Steelers with you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you, Will, for sure. We'll have to do it again sometime. And yeah, Justin, I think I'll be on again pretty soon for a little college football action and talks. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's what I thought I had heard, but I didn't want to just throw it out there.
Yeah, it's
just in case you hadn't totally committed yet. Right on. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Justin.